Amen. Please be seated. A couple of Sundays ago, Deacon Cecily in her sermon talked about how important faith is something that we do, not just something that we talk about or imagine or feel. It's about going out and doing our faith. It was all very well. It was stirring. We went away thinking about it, I'm sure. But it's nice occasionally to have a concrete example of that. And so this morning, we have with us, I feel like I'm talking about Saints Mark and his companions, Mark and Nina and Alice, who have come back from Texas with a report on the work that they did there in Brownsville. And they're going to talk to us a little this morning about what that was about, what it felt like, what it looked like, and what they have come back understanding about themselves and their faith as a result. So it's fun, please. I should say for the choir, you may want to move down because you won't be able to see the slides very well.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? I'd like to introduce Alice Edgell and Nina Leach from St. Nicholas. They traveled with me on our trip together to Brownsville, Texas. Next slide, Father. So we left on October 17th and returned the 24th. It was 8 days, including travel. Next. So what I'd like to do is quickly lead you through some pictures of the trip, and then I would like to talk just a few minutes about some of the lessons learned and some of the meaning that I found in it. Okay, next, Father. Blessing of the mission. We started at St. Nicholas with our team, and it was very meaningful for me and for the team. Next. Started at 4:30 a.m. out of Elkton, Maryland on the first day. Go ahead. Through BWI to Houston. Next. Next. We arrived in Harlingen, Texas, not too far from Brownsville, our ultimate destination. Okay. The ladies and I getting ready to get our taxi. Next. Okay, this is us in Brownsville, checking in. Next. Our first stop was the Good Neighbor Shelter House, or Settlement House. And it was a homeless shelter that we were based out of. That's where we would ultimately do our cooking and preparation for feeding the next day. So you see October 17th there, we were scheduled to feed 700 to 1,000 people the next day, the 18th. Next. Kitchen was rather small, about half the size of ours. Next. Now that kitchen was fed people that were customers of the homeless shelter, but other various community groups used it as well. So we had a very strict timeline of between 1 and 5. Next. Here's our recipe, called for 72 pounds of ground beef. Just think about how long it would take to brown 72 pounds of ground beef. Okay, next. So we arrived the first day on the 17th, and we got an intro at Good Neighbor Settlement House, but also then had to go buy all of the things, including 60 gallons of water and food for 700. Next. This is us. The next morning, we're prepping this is our day, October 18th. This is the day we're to prepare all the food and serve. This is Catholic Charities was there the night before, and they had offered to help us shop and then to unload. Next. Next. That's just a short view of it. All right, go ahead. So this is where the work began. Nina was in charge of making, was it 36 pounds of rice? So one lesson learned was you don't make 4 gigantic boxes of rice at one time. So it was, so Nina was the rice queen. Next. This is Alice. We ended up trading out ground beef for chicken and improved our speed. Next. So this is what we made. We made a chicken, rice, and corn and tomato type thing. This was the top, what went on top of the rice. That pan is about that big around. So we had a couple of them going. Next. Okay, next. So, there was the three of us went there, and we thought we were going to feed 700 people. We needed some help. So we were partnered with a team that came from, it was a group of women that graduated University of Pennsylvania about 30 years ago. They get together once a year and they do projects together. So we were teamed with them and another group from Caring Forward, a group that was focused on children, infant children and mothers. Next. So this is Alice and one of the UPenn women working on the food. Next. That gives you a little bit better size of scale. Next. So what we had to do was we cooked for 700, and we didn't necessarily understand exactly how this was going to work. We made food for 700, and we put it into these dishes like you see, okay? And we ended up with 18 of them. The rice is underneath of there. Next. In addition to that, we had Rice Krispie Treats and fruit cups and lemonade. We made about 40 gallons, 45 gallons of lemonade, something like that. Next. When you're feeding 700 to 1,000 people in an hour or less, you need to be fast. Okay, so taking things out of packaging while you're serving is not an option. So all the Rice Krispie Treats had to come out of the boxes, all the fruit cups had to come out of their boxes, all that stuff went into garbage bags to speed service. Okay, next. So then you take the food trays to the bus station. We did not necessarily know about this part. Take the food to the bus station, and then from the bus station, it's loaded on hand carts, like your child's wagon. Okay? Along with diapers and tents and sleeping mats and all kinds of other supplies. Next. So then you drag them through the bus station and through the city of Brownsville to get to the bridge to Mexico, where we served in Matamoros, Mexico. Okay? And there's a part of the wagon train. This is us getting ready to cross over into Mexico. Set up. To feed 700 to 1,000 people, we did it on 2 tables. Round table over here, round table over here. Women and children, men. There was no pushing, no shoving, smiles, no cutting in line. It was amazing to see the organization and the thankfulness of the people that were being fed. Next. More of us setting up in a camp area, and it was literally a camp area. I have some more pictures later. This is what it looked like when we were feeding, serving the population there, the day that we had cooked. Next. 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 This is us smiling because it's just about over. So we were able to feed these people. We started about 9 a.m. that day, and we finished about, I'm going to say we got back about 9 p.m. Next. This is us crossing back over the bridge. Okay. So then, the other days, we cooked the first full day we were there, and then we helped serve others. And that was one of the things I found to be the most valuable to me was not only being able to serve the asylum seekers themselves, but to serve those people that we're serving. We had Alice and Nina had this plan down to the T. We thought, well, we had some small holes and we had some bigger holes. But one of the things was the way that people in the area rushed to fill the holes that we had was amazing. I had never seen that kind of support from a group of strangers. It was amazing. Next. Getting ready to go across again. We crossed 4 times, I think. Did we cross about 4 times? Okay, keep going, Father. Okay, this is the next day, but you see the tins all covered up with the wagons to take them across. It was about 1.5 miles that we had to go through town and then over the bridge and then set up. Okay, next.
Did they check passports and all that each time we went?
On the way back. On the way back they did. Sometimes the Mexican officials would go through some of our bags, like I think, Alice, they went through your suitcase one time. But not, on the way in through customs, we did have to have our passport each and every time, okay? This is the bus station. This is the team. We're all loaded up. This is about day 2 or 3 going through. Everything that we took over in wagons. Food, water, tents, medical supplies, diapers. Okay? But this is us supporting other teams who had supported us the day that we cooked and served. Okay? This is the border. This is the Rio Grande River where we were. It's not as wide as this church is long. Okay? All stacked up at the border. Keep going. Getting one more. Over there on the left-hand side, once we crossed the bridge, we would cut over to the left on the plaza there is where we would set up and serve. It was a virtual tent city. Not only close, but really as far as you could see. Okay? This is the second day. The idea was that we would try to feed a person about every 20 seconds. So the idea was somebody would grab the plate, somebody would put the protein on, somebody would put maybe a salad, then somebody would put a piece of bread, and it was gone. Okay, let's keep going. Father, next. More of the feeding that day on the 19th. Next. Coming back. About the second or third day, I mean, it's emotional. It's an emotional thing to be there and to serve others. And it's also a physical test. Next. We did take Sunday off. We went to Church of the Advent in Old Town Brownsville. Next. So happened that the service that we went to, they had a choir, men's and ladies choir from the high school, and they were great. It was a surprise. It was great to hear. As a matter of fact, during the church service, I have not said this before, but I was, one of the songs was, "I am the bread of life," and I was in tears. Next. This is us refilling the pantry. We ended up buying, at this stop, we bought 50 loaves of bread and 26 gallons of milk just to tide things over. Next. This is a mural on the outside of the Good Neighbor Settlement House. It was United Methodist Church women had put this together as a shelter. Next. Food pantries. Next. This is there for the homeless shelter's day-to-day operations. Next. As it was getting a little cold, as we were starting to get ready to leave, and there were mothers there that didn't have anything. They didn't have diapers, they didn't have formula, they didn't have a mat to put their child down on. Some of the groups were bringing across hand-woven blankets, or knitted blankets. Another trip across. This is the Bay Area Border Response Team, and we assisted them one day. And I tell you this because if you look in Time Magazine was there the same time we were, and Time Magazine had an article on this group. A couple of the women that were serving were not only serving food, but they were child psychologists, and there were children in Matamoros were telling their story through pictures. So look up that Time Magazine article from this last week. Next. So, I mean, this is up close, it's a little bit better, but it's meant to show you the lines of people, the amount of people. When we served, and the line only got longer. We served, and the line got longer. So it was some effort to feed that number of people. Keep going. Tent city, for as far as you could see, really. Next. More of the amount of people in tents. Next. This is the Bay Area Border Response team that was feeding. Next. So we spent the first few days feeding, serving the asylum seekers, and then the second 2 days, Alice was really interested in working at the bus station and advocating for people there. Okay? Getting set up the first day, we didn't hardly know what we were going to be doing. But next picture. A couple of young men getting ready to go. All they had was a bus ticket, and many of them didn't speak English. The staff, the security guards, and actually the people at the Greyhound counter were really great about assisting them where they needed to go. Next. There's Alice and Nina out there working with some of the young gentlemen that came through. Next. One more. So I'll quickly tell you about this from an advocating perspective. The young man on the left, Jose, and his very pregnant wife came from Venezuela. And they had been going through the process that we had prescribed, the government had prescribed, for 4 months, and finally had made it across, and they had their bus ticket. Didn't speak English at all. There's an iPhone app for that, so you can translate back and forth. But we ended up taking him, or I took him, and Alice and I took him via a rental car to Western Union. Got him there, he had his passport, picture ID, and all that, but because he did not have a U.S. or a Mexican driver's license, they would not give him his funds. So he didn't have any money to make his trip. So we got him back to the bus station. On the phone, I spoke to somebody in his family who spoke English. They were able to Zelle. Everybody familiar with Zelle? They were able to Zelle my wife $100, and she moved it via her cell phone into my account, and I went and got $100 out of the ATM and was able to give him some money to make the trip. So when I say advocating, I was not giving him any money. We're just moving money so he would have something to make this trip. So it was that kind of work that needed to be done to help. Next. A couple of lessons learned, and some of these are fun and some of them a little more business-like, but there is a Team Brownsville Volunteers page on Facebook. If you're interested in seeing what's going on and seeing the daily feeds, that's a place to go. The cooking schedule, the volunteering schedule's on there, so is the bus station. The Good Neighbor Shelter House, we did not know about that place, or I didn't know about that place until we showed up on the ground, and they ended up being a very big link in this. When you're there, rent a car. If you go there, rent a car, rent a big car. Whatever the biggest car you can get is what you should get. The housing that we had was fine. Next. The team size needs to be 7 to 10. The three of us, we did great. We worked really hard, but there was a organizational and a physical aspect to this. If you think about recipe, don't think that you can ground 72 pounds of ground beef and make everything else that you have to do in 4 hours and be at the bus station. Plan to take care of the team. you have to take care of yourselves, because you end up working so hard for others that you forget to eat for a day. You need to take care of yourselves and the ones that you're traveling with. Next. Lessons learned, finances, just as a planning number, when we go again, we need to be fundraising about $1,200 or so. Technology, Facebook. Facebook is a must. I mean, everything there runs on Facebook. All the volunteer schedules, all that is on Facebook. Texting and emailing, real time, cell phones. It's a very fluid environment. Things change from day to day. Even the border crossing, you know, what they would allow in, what they wouldn't allow in, changed from day to day. So you had to be up to date. If nothing else, you had to be flexible. Next. So, meaning for me. First off, I went there to serve the asylum seekers, to serve others, and I most certainly got the opportunity to do that, and I say thank you to everybody that contributed financially and for your prayers as well. That was the only way we were able to get through it. Opportunity to serve others that are serving. That was kind of surprising to me, but that was the opportunity to serve those other groups that are serving on the front line was maybe the biggest thing to me. Important to clear the path for those that follow. We learned some lessons. So the idea is that when you follow behind, you're going to learn plenty of things, but at least you'll be able to go further down the path than we did. And then politics in this community response. The idea is that I tend to be a little conservative in my political views, so I was kind of back and forth about the politics and the feeding and the nature of the activities that were there. But it really comes down to the fact that there are hungry people there that needed help. There was hungry people that need help. We can argue about politics, we can argue about who's going to pick up the bill later, but this was a community response. This wasn't a government initiative. This was a group of citizens in Brownsville that got together to arrange this. Next. So again, thank you for the opportunity to go and to report back to you. I do want to have Alice and Nina, do you have anything to add?
I do. Thank you. I do want to thank you for your support. One of the things that was most meaningful to us were the prayers that we received. We knew were coming from the two congregations at that time we were there. I had known many years ago, my citizen life, if you will, the role I was supposed to carry. I was to be a servant. This was a wonderful opportunity to do that. We did indeed serve them as though we were serving Christ. And I want you to know how meaningful that is to us who are doing it. I just have to echo what Alice has said. The environment down there was very overwhelming in a lot of ways. The people that we encountered had been through quite a bit before we even met them. And it was hard to remember that because there were people who were very gracious to us. It was something that impressed me a great deal, that when we were serving dinner, everyone who came through the line, without exception, each one said gracias. They were very gracious to us and hospitable to us. When we would leave in the evening, cross back over the bridge, many people were lined up just to be out in the air in the evening, and they would say, buenas noches, gracias, and they were just so hospitable to us. We thought we were being hospitable to them. But it was a great experience, and I would encourage anyone who feels moved to do so, to go. The other volunteers were just so heartening to meet. Not all of them were from Faith Spring
Okay, Father, thank you.
How many people did you actually end up feeding on that one day?
I'm going to say it was in excess of 700. It was probably closer to 750, edging towards 800. One of the days we were there, it was said that it was about 1,000. I'm told that they continue to come about 100 every day.
And several hundred children are there at a time.
Thank you.